Hey readers, so I just finished Dark Hole and have quite a few things to say about it. It's a sci-fi thriller starring Kim Ok-vin, who I was looking forward to seeing again after I saw her in The Villainess. For the rest of the cast, I wasn't too familiar with them, but while I was watching this show, I also watched Here's My Plan, starring Kim Do-hoon. In Dark Hole, he plays a high school bully, so it was interesting to see his role in the other show, as he does a complete 180 in this show. Great actor. I hope to see him in more stories. This drama is on Viki and is a bit shorter with only 12 episodes, but it's just the right amount needed to tell this kind of story. This show is about a mysterious sinkhole that appears in the mountains by Muji City, a small town in South Korea. This phenomenon leaves behind a fog that engulfs the entire town, where the people who inhale the black smoke within turn into mutants. This show follows the survivors and their efforts to protect their loved ones as they unravel the mystery behind the black smoke and the creature that stalks them. Our first survivor is Lee Hwa-sun, a detective looking for a serial killer who murdered her husband, followed by Hang Dong-lim, a troubled high school student who lost her father in a hit-and-run accident and gets constantly bullied by her classmates. Next is Madam Kim, a shaman who is slandered by her clients for being forsaken by her spirit. And finally, we have Yoon Tae-han. He is a former police officer who was born and raised in Muji City, but lost his job due to an internal investigation that suggested he took bribes from criminals. Now, you might be wondering what I mean by Train to Busan meets Lovecraft. You probably already know what Train to Busan is, as it's a very popular Korean zombie film, winning several awards and beloved by fans and critics alike. The other term Lovecraft refers to H.P. Lovecraft, a prolific American writer in the early 1900s known for his horror short stories compiled into the Cthulhu mythos. They are quite influential, as many films and TV shows can be traced back to some sort of creature or trauma established by Lovecraft. Stephen King and Guillermo del Toro are some authors who have produced work inspired by Lovecraft. Lovecraft stories tend to deal with the unknown, aliens, creatures, and deities that are beyond our own understanding. The scale, scope, and abilities of these entities are massive and overwhelming to the point where having a bit of knowledge of their existence will drive one insane. Now, what makes Dark Hole more Lovecraftian than your usual zombie story is the premise of the story itself. A sinkhole appears, causing a mist of destruction to seep over a small town and turns the people into mutants. These mutants don't hunt others to eat or infect others like zombies, but kill out of grief, trauma, or rage. They kinda act like zombies though, but it's clear they're being controlled by an entity that takes advantage of their trauma. The mutants see other humans as the people who did them wrong, so they will go against all odds to kill them. Some other mutants take their own lives as their trauma is too overwhelming to confront. On our darkness scale, this show is an 8 out of 10. It definitely touches on some serious topics such as bullying, corrupt leaders, and violence, so keep that in mind. So, should you watch this show? If you're a fan of sci-fi and like the concept of mysterious creatures, zombies, and survival, give it a try. Otherwise, if you're looking for anything else, you're not going to find it here. So I'd give this a pass. The opening of the show sets up the entire series pretty well. I mean, not the first few minutes, as that's in media res and is kind of confusing, but the stories afterwards, as we follow our main characters and learn what motivates and drives them. It continues on into the second episode when the outbreak occurs, which definitely has Train to Busan vibes. The majority of the show involves characters tackling one issue at a time. For example, a friend's wife is pregnant and on another floor in the hospital, or there's not enough food for the group. You know, that's standard apocalyptic stuff, but it's hard to see what the big picture is. Like, there's no major goal to look forward to, and the conflicts the characters handle aren't connected, nor do they contribute to the overall mystery of what the Dark Hole is. There's a few extra subplots that are included in the show, but don't resolve nicely, making you wonder why they were included in the first place. For example, there is a subplot involving one of the doctors looking for an antidote for the mutants, but it doesn't really go anywhere, nor did it fit well with the rest of the stories, and I think the story was only there to make her stay in the series for another character's sake. There's also another subplot involving a cult, but it never is really expanded on and is discarded soon after. The plot involving the shaman is fine, but the subplot about sacrificing an immigrant worker to appease the entity is more discriminatory than necessary to the story. There's even a new character, introduced in the last episode. Yeah, it's a bit messy. What makes Lee Hwa-seon an interesting character is seeing her struggle and deal with her trauma of her husband's death. Compared to Yoo Tae-han, he has backstories tied to other characters, but he doesn't really deal with any particular trauma because it's clear he has moved on from them. What would have made it more conflicting and interesting is if the black smoke would have tried to enter him, but he wouldn't have been affected by it at all. Dark Hole touches on a common theme, which is dealing with trauma and grief. Some people will do whatever it takes to take revenge, others will take their own lives, but some move on with the help of friends and family. This was made obvious by how the black smoke didn't overtake our main lead because of people who didn't want her to succumb to the black smoke. Unfortunately, not everyone has someone, so they will become spawns of the entity. Because of this theme, there are many great moments with our main lead and other characters who share their experiences to grieve, comfort, and sympathize together. Unfortunately, even though the show had great setups and moments, it's only a 7 out of 10. Unless you're a hardcore sci-fi thriller fan, I wouldn't recommend this show. There were a lot of missed opportunities with the male lead and side characters, as there could have been some very interesting and a variety of stories. But because there is no goal to look forward to, the pacing becomes quite slow and will definitely test your patience. But you know what? At least the final song we hear in the show is pretty good. Anyways, have you seen it? Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to keep reading your favorite K-dramas.
여전히 나는 갈 곳을 잃고서 이 거리 위를 혼자 걷고 있는 걸 눈앞에 펼쳐진 이 상황은 참 어둡게